Tonight we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomenon within the ultra spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 29th, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. I'm a licensed private investigator, citizen journalist, a former MUFON guy, and the director of investigations for the Experiencers Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. A special thanks to all our YouTube members who have helped us keep this program and others free for experiencers. And remember that as a member, you get to ask questions live here tonight. For all you non-members, you can super chat or send a tip on Rockfin to ask questions to our guests live. Every little bit helps. At the 2-hour mark, CC and I will have our after chat, so stick around and we'll keep the conversation going and chat with everyone in the live chat. We discuss what we thought about the episode and share some most recent news with Tessa. All right, so tonight's theme is UAP disclosure, fringe topics, and experiencer testimony. I like these episodes where I get to dive deep into experiencer testimony. So for our guest for season 4, episode 31 is Pricilla Stone. Pricilla is a student of the paranormal and other fringe topics with a focus on UAP disclosure. Her first UFO experience was at the age of 5, sparking a series of events and a drastic change in worldview. She also has a background in molecular biology, where she learned how to properly conduct and vet research. That's a valuable asset. Her channel, Quantum Wytch Cafe, creates a safe space for experiencers and authors of all types to share their altering events and chat about all things paranormal, fringe, strange, and UAP. She's also the host of UAP Book Club, a book club that meets monthly to discuss the latest UFO/UAP book. So you can find her on her YouTube channel, Quantum Wytch Cafe, and that's Witch with a Y, by the way, WYTCH. And you can also find her on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So Pricilla, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. How are you doing?
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. I have to say this. You have the best name in the world. The second best name in the world. First best name in the world is my wife's name, which is also Pricilla.
Oh, shut up. I've never met.
But but she spells it with an S. So she's S as in super Pricilla.
Yeah, that's supposed to be there, but my mom just decided to leave it out. So I don't know.
What did she name you after? Let me guess.
She said she just liked the name, but as a lover of Elvis, I'm going to say that she named me after Priscilla Presley.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend with the Priscillas. All right, cool. So we're going to start with the icebreaker question, if that wasn't one already, from CC. So I'm going to play a jingle, and then we'll ask the question. All right, so this icebreaker question is brought to us by CC, who runs the Experiencers Anonymous group, which was yesterday, by the way, and the next one is at the end of October. So head over to our events page to see to sign up for the Experiencers Anonymous group. So her question for us tonight is: what is a book or movie on fringe subjects that helped frame your present worldview, or perspective? What is a book or movie on fringe subjects that helped frame your present worldview or perspective? Final answer.
My goodness. That is a tough one. And I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, I'm going to go with Close Encounters because it was just so, I mean, it's classic. And it didn't change. I feel like I've had more books change my life than movies. But that one was, it had kind of had that typical looking ET at the end. And kind of how the world was just gathered around. And I always pictured it being something like that.
Interesting. For me, I don't know. I started with X-Files. I always started with
Oh,
X-Files.
yes.
I think that was like a tradition for a lot of people. But like to kind of index in what I'm concerned about or what I'm focused on, the movie that popped in my head was The Fourth Kind.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great one too. See, it's hard to pick. And yes, X-Files was a way of life in the 90s. So
Well, I'm an investigator, so that was kind of natural progression for me. But but the fourth kind element, with the abduction phenomenon and the Sumerian connection,
yeah,
and
yeah.
police video evidence, which is also interesting for me.
Yeah,
So
that was kind of that was an intense one to watch too.
if it's true, allegedly, who knows? But
Right, right. Now, am I thinking it right? The fourth kind was the one that took place in Nome, Alaska.
that's right.
Okay, yes, the ending of that one just wrecked me for so long. It was very triggering. So
Yeah, it was interesting the way they filmed it because you had reenactments, and then like that's what I like about this movie. I'm giving a free review for you guys, by the way, but it was whenever they built the story, they reenact the building the story, but whenever the suspenseful stuff happened, it was actual evidence. So normally it's the
wow.
other way around. You have something and then you reenact the stuff that you hear about that you found out afterwards. So it made it really believable.
I agree. I agree. After, and it's hard to differentiate that in your mind as a viewer of a movie when they do that, when they mix actual like historical footage or evidence gathered from tapes or videos, and then they mix it with the reenactment. If it's done well enough, your brain just makes it all real.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Cece, for that icebreaker. My first question is, as always, why are you the way that you are? And what I mean by that is, how did you start as far back as you want to go,
Okay.
and
Oh, wow.
walk me through your life up until now?
Okay, well, I grew up in a pretty open household. It was Catholic, but my grandmother would always talk about spirits, about mediumship, essentially, without calling it mediumship. Being Catholic, we also did a lot of weird Catholic ritualistic type things without them saying this is a Catholic ritual. But she kind of mixed in what is known as Santeria with it. So we'd be like burying saints on certain days for stuff. I caught her a few times doing card readings for people late at night, like tarot cards, but with a deck of playing cards. So we had all sorts of visitations, and I experienced all sorts of entities as far back as I can remember. Not necessarily what we would consider extraterrestrial, but as I was being taught, being in a Catholic household, it was either human ghosts, demons, or angels.
Okay.
Thinking back, it could have been anything because I don't recall any of them ever saying, "Hi, I'm a demon," or "Hi, I'm an angel." So that kind of started the weirdness. And my grandma was kind of weird like that. Like she loved to watch paranormal things. I don't know if you remember the show Sightings from like way back in the day. And then obviously she was a Trekkie, so I'd fall asleep. She'd watch that from time to time. And then I was always into space, so my grandpa started showing me constellations. And long story short, I was sneaking out at night to look for constellations. And one night, as I found Orion's belt, and these three spherical lights came on
Excuse me.
of the triangle.
Okay.
In my mind, I thought it was one like spaceship, as I probably would have called it. And then they started doing these maneuvers, like spinning to the right, and they would go up and then drop down. And then the individual lights were kind of like they were self-contained spheres, like an amber. Not, I wouldn't say amber. I would say more of a golden white color,
Okay.
about the size of a basketball. At this time, I'm only noticing them spinning and then realizing that they were not one ship or one craft, because they did the spin thing up in the air three times, and then they lined up, and then they just like shot off like
Huh.
instantaneously. Were like it was almost, they were just gone. Like it looked, they started to shoot up, almost like you see those hypersonic missile tests, but
Yeah.
faster than that because you didn't see it
How old were you when you saw those?
Kindergarten.
5 or 6?
Five. I would say 5.
Interesting. And is that your first experience before? Is that your first experience that you remember?
That's the first experience I remember with UFOs.
Okay. What happened next?
Well, after that, I started getting crazy dreams, sleep paralysis events. The demons that were doing the sleep paralysis initially sort of kind of turned into these like creature looking things. I would wake up just terrified, and my body would be sore. Like I would feel my whole body just like every muscle in my body was just like being clenched. Like if you got one of those muscle contractor things with the electrode and you put that on and like it clenches your muscle for you or contracts your muscle for you. It felt like that was happening all over my body and I couldn't wake up. And then I started seeing the figures on the side, which looked like kind of like a traditional gray, but mean, not like friendly. So that started happening and I'm too young. I'm not looking for marks like we would today, right? Like if that happens to me tonight, I'm going to be like examining myself, but I'm little, like I'm thinking that these are just some sort of demon. I'm not making the connection between possibly seeing the lights or going out there and intentionally looking at the sky, trying to find things. So it changed from monsters to that. And then it was kind of a mix of everything. And then I would wake up, I would be able to open my eyes at times and see shadow figures, but small shadow figures, like in the shape of a gray. And it became to the point where I couldn't see a picture of a gray without like just get this sinking fear, like irrationally just paralyzing fear. I wouldn't sleep. I try to stay up all night. So that went on until after I left Alaska, it stopped. So I was in Arizona when this was happening, but because of the military, we moved a lot. And after I left Alaska, the events pretty much stopped. But it was sleep paralysis with grays for a long time. When I was in about first or second grade, I woke up in like not painful sleep paralysis, but I still couldn't move. But it wasn't painful or scary. And there was like a figure at the end of my where I was sleeping by the window. And it looked, now what I understand, kind of like a mantis, but it wasn't solid. It was like almost like a hologram.
Transparent.
Yeah, transparent, kind of like your hat is giving like a different color. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like that holographic color.
Okay.
And it was kind of like glitching in and out. It felt like it wasn't solid. And I saw it and I'm looking at it and I'm awake and this is not a dream. And I'm saying, this is not a dream. You're awake, but you can't move. And then out of nowhere, it was just kind of like, shh, like it felt like calm. And then I fell asleep. And I remember just drawing it the next day, showing my friends at school, and they like made fun of me. And, you know, even after the first experience with the orbs, I remember telling my kindergarten teacher, who was a sister, not a nun, but a sister, similar. And she's just like, God doesn't make stuff like that, you know? So I'm thinking, what, did I watch Star Trek with my grandma too many times? Or, you know, I'm young thinking this, like, what's wrong with me? Is it my imagination? You know?
You do know that a lot of people do experience that as well. So you're not the only one.
I'm knowing this now that I'm meeting more people, but I haven't met, I mean, I've only been publicly out of the experiencer closet, I guess, for maybe just over a year. Like I've told this to people, but as you probably notice when you talk to people or you've seen other people talk to people, it just kind of just like goes through their head and out the other side. Like they don't process it. So until I realized there was a whole community of UFO people and experiencers, this is the most I've talked about it. I saw other beings throughout my life. Another time was in Pine Top, Arizona, or not outside of Pine Top. So it was Prescott, Arizona, which is still northern Arizona. And I was outside again looking at stars, and I saw like something move in the tree line about, no, I can't, I'm little when I'm seeing this. I'm like I'm not even in junior high. but I'm old enough to read. I know that because I was reading a lot. And I looked out there into the woods, and there's this like figure, and I thought that I was saying like a deer, because that's like the first thing that pops in your head, like, oh, a deer, you're all, you know. And it wasn't. It was a small gray, and it would like poked around a tree, and it scared the shit out of me. Sorry, it scared me a lot.
It's okay.
So it like scared me. And as I feel like this connection, like it knows I'm scared, and it morphs into a little boy and like runs into the forest. So that was kind of.
Did anyone else? No one else with you? No witnesses?
No. My grandpa came out a little bit afterwards. I kind of stayed on. I was afraid as I was still looking for it to come back, or trying to figure out like, is that a kid? And then when I told them, because my grandpa was a smoker, so he came out and, you know, was like, what are you doing out here? Like by yourself kind of thing. And then I went inside and I told my grandma and him, and they were like, oh, it's probably just somebody else from another cabin's kid running around in the forest. I'm like, no, this thing like morphed. It changed like it. So those are probably like the craziest two.
So what happened after junior high?
So after junior high, I'm still having these sleep paralysis experience, and I'm still not sure whether to call them demons, or I was calling them demons, because I felt like anytime I would get serious into like any sort of, and it went both ways, even anytime I got seriously into either the witchcraft and a good witchcraft, or even like Jesus, because I'd be like, oh, well, it's because I'm into witchcraft, I'm having these bad dreams, I'll go to church. Like anytime I got close to any sort of like source energy, it felt like I was getting like attacked. So I just assumed they were demons. But now that I know a little bit more about things, I'm thinking that, you know, when you get into any spiritual practice, it opens your senses up. It opens up a lot around you. And you're able to have like your spiritual clairs turn on, like your spiritual, I hate saying gifts because it makes it sound like only some people have it and everybody does have it. Mm-hmm. But now I'm thinking I was just opening myself up and these things were coming through. I was not weirded out until I woke up outside a few times, and without sleepwalking, not without being a regular sleepwalker. The first time was in grade school, where I first saw those lights in Phoenix. The second time was in high school. I woke up on the other side of a fence after having a sleep paralysis event with Grays. And then this is the hard one to talk about because it was kind of recent. A couple of years ago, I woke up outside as an adult, as a mother,
take your
after sleep paralysis event. And that they've been more and more spread out. So it's concerning that it's still like, it's super, it kind of feels like you drank too much and then you blacked out. Yeah. And you don't know what happened. But I'm not really a big drinker.
And you know yourself in order to verify those things, right? You've obviously already.
Yeah. Like I don't sleepwalk. I sleep talk, but I don't sleepwalk.
Have you ever been tested just to verify to make sure that that's not what's happening? Because that's
sleepwalking.
Yeah.
I mean, you could ask anybody that's lived with me.
Oh.
I do. I mumble in my sleep and I say weird stuff. Like I talk in my sleep, but I don't like get out of the bed and like walk around. Like I've not, you know.
It was dangerous though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walking into traffic.
Like oh that. Yeah. Yep. I've seen people's security footage of them walking around, going outside. But yeah, like I don't get out of bed. So like waking up outside and like nobody's like responding. Like, you know, like I'm outside all of a sudden. My husband's passed out on the couch and won't wake up. And the dog's just like, man, like, I don't care about you. Like, you know, like, how does that even, it doesn't, and then, you know, of course I want to say like, oh, I'm just into it too much. Right. But why haven't I sleepwalked since, you know, or why don't I sleepwalk more? And why is it always around some sleep paralysis event or?
Well, in order for me to answer that, we would have to really get into more detail and more personal questions that I don't want to ask here, but I'm thinking them in my head and I'm being I'm trying really hard not to ask that an open space and put you on the spot. Have you ever officially like made a report to any reporting agency? Have they helped you? Has there been any suggestions or referrals to by anyone to help you live with this?
No, not really. I was in a space one time on, oh my gosh, what is it called? Clubhouse. I was on a Clubhouse space one time and ended up in a room with Alan Steinfeld, and he's like, "You need to get regressed. Like, you need a past life, you need a regression." I'm not sure if I want to like remember anything, honestly. If I was waking up super freaked out, and until like the past couple years, like now I love like little gray alien emojis, and I love now I've like embraced it. But there was like a point in my life, and all well into adult life, where I could not see one without just being like I wouldn't sleep. Like I try to stay up. You know, when you're afraid, you try to stay up as long as possible.
Yeah.
Like so.
So okay, just piggybacking off of what you're saying, and then in real time. So we do have the option to submit reports. So if you go to our website and you hit submit a report and you choose to fill that out, that'll get sent to me directly, and then I can look at it. But like, it's not just investigations. When we talked about Experiencers Anonymous earlier, what we try to do here at the Experiencers Support Association is to try to I focus on investigations, of course, but once the investigations are done and we kind of rule out some of these things, which is why I asked that question, but we don't want to get into too much details here live. But then I could refer you to regression, or I could refer you to other people, but these are private people. But I would want because I feel like you don't want to know the answers either. But you might already know. You just don't want it to be true, and that's fine. And everyone's journey is their own. Right. I've been told I should do regression for my own experiences. I refuse to do that because I don't want to know, because I'm trying to be unbiased with all these investigations and whatnot too. But I'm not saying you have to report to us. But what I'm saying is it would be beneficial if you were to document it, journal it at the very least. Keep a personal record, and then get your regression.
Right.
And then learn what you learn from the regression, because sometimes that regression is recorded, and then compare what comes out of the regression to the notes that are already established. When we get a report in and do the investigation, it's time stamped. And then after we do the referral, I can go back to the report and say, it's interesting that you elaborated, because I can also talk to it's also, you got to be careful with who you select for regression, because obviously there's monetary value. Some people charge, and if they do charge, that might be the motive, and they might imply or encourage you to believe a certain way. It might not be true, because they're just trying to line their wallets. So it's really hard to find that genuine one. But if it's backed with an investigation, or if you at least investigate it yourself and dial into questions that you want answered, when you go to the person that provides the regression for you, you can ask them to focus in on specific things that only you know the answers to, and then that. But the challenge with regression is once you unlock that, there's no going back.
Yeah, that's the scary part, right?
Mm-hmm. And like, that's why I say I don't want to know. Like, if I was something happened to me, great. I'm taking what I know, I'm putting it out there, I'm using it, doing my thing, but I don't want to know.
Have you had anybody? Sorry, I know. Have you had anybody ask you, like, well, how can you advocate for experiencers if you don't do this and you're telling them to do this? Like, because I ran into that, which is the only reason that I've talked about this publicly.
So how do I advocate for experiencers if I don't do what?
So if you're doing an investigation and you recommend an experiencer or a contactee, whatever they want to be called, if you recommend that they do a regression to find out more about their experience, like, for example, like if you, like my mantis thing, like that's one where I'm like, what the hell happened? It wasn't mean. It didn't feel mean. I wasn't afraid. I was afraid because it was weird, but I wasn't afraid. If I do my regression and I find out all this weird stuff happened, I don't want to know that. But I've said that to people, and they're like, well, how can you suggest to experiencers that maybe they should get a regression when you don't want to do a regression? How can you They're kind of saying like lead by example.
Yeah, lead
You
by
know what I
example.
mean?
So yeah, don't knock until you try kind of type deal. I get what you're saying. So for me, that's good. That's a good point. Because I did say that I pretty much put myself in that same boat. So to explain myself, is I've observed the regression being used on someone. I as a private investigator who understands evidence and collecting things and building cases, I have observed and prepped several cases where I've specifically asked questions to be answered that I know that the experiencer doesn't know why I'm asking, and I know that I trust the regressionist not to lead in with these questions.
Right.
And when I get answers that kind of compare to things I have already discovered through my investigation, it validates that. So I can confirm that the process works. I can confirm that it's possible. So my neglect comes from perhaps fear or I ain't got time for that. So so I think it's fair to say, just because I don't do it doesn't mean I don't understand the use for it and the need for it. I don't know how else to compare that, but that's like the pandemic. If you decide not to be vaccinated, but you still appreciate the fact that people might need it, there's things like that. So how would you advocate? How would you explain that by asking that question?
I kind of tend to joke when I put it under pressure. So I just I don't want to know what happened to me, and it's only one person and they were kind of trolly type. So, so I just was like, you're right. And then I've had people say it gently, like in the beginning, like, well, if you don't share your experience, you might give other people, the confidence to share theirs. So that's fine. But the whole regression thing, like I don't need another existential crisis. And some people have to know the answers and they're compelled to know it. So that's the only time I would say. And I honestly don't recommend it because I'm not an investigator. I am here to listen to people. Do you know what I mean?
I would not recommend regression. It's not at the top of my list. It's actually on the bottom of my list because just as well as you unlock those memories, we don't know what else it is.
Right.
So there's other traumas that from childhood that could come up, and then it opens up a whole can of worms. And these regression hypnotherapists, 9 times out of 10, are not capable of handling like social work or psychology or anything like that if something other than extraterrestrial comes in. So a lot of these pseudo healers, I call, do run into that risk. Because what do you do when all of a sudden you're doing a regression and then somebody identifies a criminal offense with human beings? What do you do to that? You should report that to the police or report that to, you can report that to Tessa as well. As an investigator, I can help with that. But it's a very sensitive and fragile tool, yet everyone seems to just refer it, not realizing how dangerous it actually is.
Yeah.
So to continue with that thought, what would you recommend, or what do you think you would need as an experiencer, if not regression? You mentioned that you've never received any referrals. If you could refer anything to yourself or to anyone else who's experienced what you've experienced, what would you expect? What would you need?
I think that talking in a group has been helpful. I have not been brave enough to talk in a lot of groups. Like I am a member of another experiencer group, and I chickened out of the first meeting that I RSVP'd to because I've talked on other podcasts like in depth and detail about my experiences because I wanted people to see that I am a safe space for you to talk to because I've done it too. I would refer people to a support group if they're comfortable. There's more, and I would refer them honestly to, now that I know your group is around, either your group or another experiencer group that I know.
Refer them to everybody.
Yes, because I don't know. I'm here to listen. Like I'm a friend, right? I'm here to listen. I don't have a lot of investigations. I do research, but I don't investigate. I haven't been trained in investigations. I'm not a psychologist. I'm your friend. You know, like you can talk to me if you want to talk to me, but I cannot give you advice on treatment or what you should do next.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing I refer people is to experiencer groups that meet and they talk one-on-one. And if they don't feel comfortable one-on-one, those people usually have people they can talk to one-on-one or refer them to the right people.
Do they have to talk? Maybe some people will just show up and listen.
Yeah, I think that helps too, because the one in-person group I was at, there was a couple people just listening, and they were in tears, and we were all crying, and you know, it was like just being around other people that you know make you feel less crazy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
When you've been made to feel crazy or been made to feel like, oh, your imagination is just really good, you know, like stuff like that.
Just hanging out with a strong crowd, that's all. And then as you start to hang out, so experiencer groups, like the experiencer group, there's a few others like that. That the idea and the concept is again eventually essentially bring like-minded people together to share and talk about what has happened to them with that belief in mind. There's belief there. There's comfort there. There's no judgment. And when you don't feel like you're being tested or investigated or interrogated, you start to hear similar things, and you start to reach, you start to network, and then you start to understand more from each other. It's a very healthy thing to do. That's why I said if you're going to refer to any group, refer to all groups that offer that type of service, because it's up to the experiencer to decide what they want and what they need. If they need to try many different things, because our methods may be different than other people's methods. And something I say might resonate to you today, might not resonate to somebody else, like, and things like that. There's different perspectives too. But what we have in common is that we understand that the experiencer needs care, needs to be listened to, needs to be understood, so we can at least know, so the investigators at least, so I don't know if this other group has investigators, but so that at least the investigator side can follow the right leads to try and get answers to help understand. And because we don't have actual police officers, we don't have actual doctors and we don't have all of these things. We have people that share the same passion and earning to take care of our own in this pseudo bracket, which is challenging on its own because it's not accredited. But really, if you remove all these certificates and all these things, what are we doing? We're just human beings taking care of our human beings. It's no different than opening up a door for someone when you see it. It's politeness, it's courtesy, it's needed. So when you get into these situations where you're not feeling that, not just getting that, feeling that, right? Those people are looking for specific questions, for specific needs to achieve a specific goal that is not in line with taking care of the experiencers. And that is something that's in disclosure. You mentioned UFO Twitter earlier, right? So if that's full of drama, right? And so you mentioned, we're taking a break from that sometimes, and that's just a different type of people. So I do want to point out the fact that you said that you used to be afraid of it. It took you a while to do it. You've done it, and now here you are, having doing that. So you should be proud of yourself to be able to work yourself into that moment, and you're setting the example for other experiencers who may have experienced the similar things. And so to segue into what you do, or is there more experiences? Do you have more experiences to share with me?
They're all similar. They're kind of the whole sleep paralysis. Like I said, the more jarring ones I've talked about, like seeing beings, waking up outside, those sorts of not normal, right? But I've had like beautiful experiences with like angels, but now I'm second guessing, like, were they angels? Do you know what I mean? We're running into the whole ultra terrestrial conversation more and more. And now I'm like, were they some sort of light being? Because they kind of look like what people say light beings, and those were beautiful experiences in times of like emotional sadness or turmoil, times when, they felt like they were helping. So
Right.
there's been experiences like that too. So, and yeah, but I think that they've all kind of like I know that if I go outside, I'm going to see some anomalous orbs. Like, and people are like, why don't you take pictures? I'm like, because people don't want those pictures. Like, I care about those pictures when I see them, but people don't. They're going to be like, oh, it's a ball in the sky. Like, I don't have a good camera, so I'm not going to even attempt to take pictures of this thing. I think for me is when you say you're an investigator, right? How does somebody come forward that has an old experience? Like say like when I was 5, that was my only experience, or in grade school with the mantis thing.
Well,
Like how do you investigate something like that where like my grandpa's the only one I told, or grandma, and they're dead now? You know what I mean? How do you even tell somebody, you should investigate your experience when it's an old experience?
there's still evidence that you can do. So depending on what you're trying to do with it. So as for me, every experience is valuable, because if I were to investigate every single experience that you put in or everybody else did, I would investigate them all separately. And then we would try to answer, or at least get close to what this may or may not be. I may sometimes not believe what you think has happened, but I do believe something happened. And what I'm trying to do is we challenge it a little bit to see if we can agree on the same thing. It's never going to, this is my opinion. If you don't agree with it, then we got to try again. Why don't you agree with it? Okay, let's look into it until we're on the same page. Now, you go to the past when you have an experience that can't be measured, or there's no evidence to prove it happened. Who are you proving that to? You're proving it to yourself. You need to acknowledge that it happened, and you need validation for yourself. I don't need that proof, because what can I do with it? But you can remember. So through my program with investigations, if you don't have any evidence, if you mention you drew something, so drawing is a type of evidence. It's analogical evidence that can be used. The problem with disclosure movement is that a drawing is circumstantial and it comes from the mind, and it can't be done that. So on its own, it's useless if you're trying to answer the question of is there life, or all these other things. If you're trying to solve that riddle. But it's not useless if you do that same process with 100 people.
That's true.
And those 100 people draw the same thing, or say 99 people draw the same thing, and then just one person has a photograph of what looks like all the things that were drawn over all the years. Then a case is built, which is what I'm building cases and building a collaboration of evidence. So every experience here is important. So that way I can take that demonstrative piece of evidence, which is a stronger level of evidence, to validate that these experiencers who don't know each other from different places from all over the world, all gone through the same process, all drew a similar thing that looks like this photo. So how is it possible that all these people from different sexes, different blood types, different races, different locations are seeing the same thing,
right?
Experiencing the same thing? So that would help me prove the possibility of this creature or entity existing. Then I pass that on to an expert who, like we have a cryptozoologist, Alex Mistretta. And he, if he doesn't recognize that as a cryptid, or we call them paracryptid, then we kind of put this in this category of like, okay, this is an unknown being. And then we just got to continue to work away on that until we start to understand that. But then you get this validation, and then we connect you with these people to get more evidence to see what you can remember and figure out what this is. We're not going to label it. We're not going to call it anything. We're not going to do all those things. We just identify and validate that, hey, I don't care what you think this is. There's evidence through the people of that it's common. Right. So what do you do with that? Then on an individual basis, each of them are validated, but then you kind of want to do more with that. So what I do then is I try to teach everybody how to get better evidence the next time that happens. Right. And that's just on one case. And if you do every single case within their life, which is why I was asking these questions, I like to build a timeline. So, you're now into like quantum stuff, you're still Quantum Wytch, right. Into spiritual, into, and things like that. which is in later years of your life, which is kind of evolving from past experiences.
Right.
So when I investigate all of these cases on an individual basis, because there's paranormal cryptid beings, we don't know what they're called. It's just isolated.
Right.
Some of these can be identified, some can't, and then we timeline them all. You might find a pattern where this contact has something to do with the way you are right now. And you're not the only one that's like that. So for those, it can be used if you're building a case and you are caring about the people and you're trying to get answers for the people. If you're trying to get answers for the politicians, for the money, for all these other things, you need that nuts and bolts. You need that video. But witness testimony is the strongest testimony you could ever have if you can get them all in the same room and prove them all to be credible. However, it takes the longest. And there's not a lot of time. There's a lot of time that's spent to it, and there's not a lot of reward for it. So when you are, this is a message to all investigators out there, since the question was on to me, and experiencers, when you want to look for a group that spends more time with quality than quantity, and you're more than likely going to get best results because they care.
It really does seem like you care. I know people that, I think you're the first investigator that I've read about other investigators and I've read a lot of books. So it's one of those things where there are people that have taken it seriously, but it's refreshing to meet another person so passionate about it. And also you care about what people are saying. So I think that's important and people pick up on that.
I not only care about what they're saying, I care about how they're feeling. Regardless of what I believe is the explanation for what you just described to me, I agree with you that it's terrifying to not know these answers. I agree with you that it's concerning to not know why you're going to bed and waking up somewhere else, whether there's extraterrestrial involved or not. Those are things that need to be looked at to make sure that you are safe and there is no underlying mental illness or condition that you may not have known about. We need to rule those things out. But just because we ask those questions doesn't mean that that's the reason for it.
Right.
There are some people out there that take alcohol, so ask questions. Were you drinking that night? And so it's okay to ask that question, but it's why are you asking that question and what are you going to do with the answer? Because people think that if you were drinking, you're not credible. But I ask, are you drinking? So I can understand if you're under the influence to get a index of, it's not so much for credibility, but to determine whether or not that alcohol or drug influence even matters in relationship to the event. So so that way, when the experiencer comes out and testifies or shares their experience, and someone comes out as a heckler and says, "Oh yeah, they were drunk that night," like, yeah, they were drinking, yes, but these people weren't, so that doesn't matter, right? So the problem we're having is everyone is not taking. Is no one's compiling the data of bringing all the experiencers together on an individual basis. You guys all are victim to the gambit of a variety of people just poking and prodding and trying to help in many different ways. But what it all comes down to, as an experiencer, you choose who you talk to, you choose what medications you want to take, you choose what help you want to do for yourself. You have 110% control of your experience. So you should be more mindful of who you decide to share your experiences with, because it's your experience. And if it wasn't for people like yourself sharing experiences, I wouldn't have information like this to share. I wouldn't be able to write a book. I wouldn't be able to do anything. And I think some of these people forget that. They are held high and they're doing all these other things and people buy their books, but it's because of us who are supporting them, and then they're not giving any support back. So I'm overselling it here, but it's just because you said you haven't received anything like that. So I'm glad you found us. That's a little information about what we do. Let's talk more about you. What is your thoughts about disclosure? How about that? Are you into the UFO UAP disclosure movement at all?
I am, not because I think that the government's going to tell us everything and hand it to us. I'm in it because it's wrong to keep this secret from the people of the world. I don't want to say from the American people because I've heard people say that, but from any world government should not be keeping these sorts of secrets when it deals with something as existential as having another being living, either coexisting with us or from outer space, whatever it is, or they are. Where are they? If you know that, you need to tell us. You also need to tell us if they're capable of manipulating our perception of reality, because they're absolute and how we're perceiving them it could be completely two different things. So it's more of like you've lied to us and it's wrong. So that's the main reason I care about the disclosure movement. I obviously care about people more than anything. But I do think that since there is a fire lit in people right now to get government disclosure, official disclosure, I think that we still need to push that, but also still hold space for experiencers and contactees and people that have had these crazy experiences. Like you have to have both. I don't, like I said, I don't trust anything that, like the hearings are great that are coming up and that have happened. It's great that that's happening because it's turning lights on for people that would not have believed this is real had they not had their government acknowledge it. So that's my big thing. I don't need disclosure. I've encountered so many things, so I know there's some weirdness happening and I don't need,
so this disclosure has happened, in my opinion.
I think so. Yeah.
Happening. And there's personal disclosures, there's personal truth and real truth and things like that too. You say that they lied to us and you say that they know, but like, is it possible that the government actually doesn't know and this might be something else?
Yeah, they might not know what it is, but they know something is happening.
They might not.
They've acknowledged,
they've acknowledged that they too also don't know what's going on.
Right. But how long has that been going on? How long have they been trying to figure it out for? And why are they just now saying, yeah, we've been trying to figure it out? Do you know what I mean?
Does UFOs mean aliens though?
No.
So it could.
What does alien even mean? And nowadays, alien can mean so many different things, right? I could go to another place and they call me an alien on this planet.
So when we're fighting for disclosure or a confirmation or validation, and it's on that belief that they have lied to us. We haven't been able to prove that they have lied. We just think they're lying because of other things that we get through documents that are redacted. Same thing helps here in Canada. So, there's missing pieces to the puzzle and we speculate. But that doesn't mean that it's true, because when we get these documents, they choose what we get to see because they know what we do and we know we're missing the information and they might know the truth. But what if it's not aliens? What if these beings that you're seeing are human?
Yeah, that's the other thing. If they think that there's humans that are coexisting with us for however long, maybe before us, right? Maybe in the ocean, maybe in caves, who knows? If they're coexisting with us and you're looking into that, wouldn't it be wise to let us look into it as well with your support versus us just making all these podcasts? We're all putting work in, right? We're all researching the same stuff because that's all we can see right now unless we talk to different people every day. And even then, like you said, there's a pattern that evolves from talking to different people about their experiences. But if it's us and we've been like coexisting this whole time, and you're looking into that as a government, as a country, and I'm saying government, people hate the word government, but I'm talking about all the different agencies involved that creates a government. If they're investigating that and they're concerned about it, whether it's just out of curiosity or national security, that gets thrown around a lot, we should be concerned too. We want to know too. I mean, some people might not want to know, just like I don't want to. But
well, they will let us know what we need to know when we need to know it. The underlying thing for me is that if these beings do exist, they have the capability of contacting you at any time that they want.
Yeah.
They have the ability to contact me at any time that they want, any experiencer. So does that mean that the government can control them from what makes us so special in terms of that? Or is the government just doesn't have control of that? It's something that does coexist as a day. So the confirmation that we get is from the experiencers. Experiencers are disclosure because for some reason we are connected and we are able to see and we are able to feel and experience this other place which these beings come from.
Right.
So the government may not be able to explain that, but I don't think they can control that.
Right.
But at the same time, they need to control us because we need to do what is needed to do to keep this world going. And there's a master plan to that. So if the government decides to not tell us anything, is that for good reason, for the greater good? Can we not trust that they're not telling this for a certain reason? Because imagine what would happen if everybody knew aliens existed. How many people would would jump off a cliff?
I don't think that everyone is ready, to be honest. But at the same time, I also pay attention to history. And not everything that they say they're doing for your own good is for your own good. My dad's side is Native American, and a lot of that assimilation, this happened everywhere, right? Especially in Canada too. That was supposed to be for their own good, to civilize them, the assimilation camps, right? So I mean, I know that's like people are like, well, now you're taking it to a whole conspiracy theory. I'm not saying that I believe that, but I'm also saying that you have to give people the choice. Otherwise, they're going to find out later, and then you lose more trust in the process as a government running a nation of people that are supposed to be able to kind of think for themselves and contribute to your decisions on what we see and what we don't see.
It's challenging.
It is, definitely.
Because in their position, they're responsible for several billion people that could interpret any message one way or another, and it's not going to be a universal thought.
True.
No matter if it's the truth, some people aren't going to believe it. It's going to be challenging. So if they know what it is and they choose not to tell us, do you not feel safe in the sense that at least the government knows and it's handled? Because it's not overbearing, other than your personal experiences, which appear to be demonic, perhaps because, and I'm reaching here because I don't have all the information, but perhaps the intent of the reason they're visiting is not known to you. So you assume it to be negative because you haven't conversed. I didn't say but it is something that doesn't look normal. It's in your bedroom or whatever. All these things that happen, circumstances does appear. It's an intruder and it is scary, but was their intent to harm? Was their intent, right? So there's a lot of things.
I think about that all the time. I think that in one experience, it was kind of like, we're not trying to hurt you. We're just doing our job.
Or they're maybe looking back going like, do they see us? You know?
Like, or like, like little things like a mosquito's biting you, smack it. Like,
what was that for? It was just
I'm not trying to say like, I know that some people's experiences, especially after doing regression, they're very traumatized by it. They have all this horror. They have to work through that, and some cannot work through that.
Right.
So I know that scary things happen to people that they cannot rationalize as saying, oh, it was just doing its job. But at the same time, all these things need to be taken into account, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to find one answer because I don't think there is one answer.
No, but it's fair to come to these conclusions with missing information. And so if the government says yes to one thing, they have to say yes to everything. They can't say aliens exist without saying ghosts exist, without saying Bigfoot exists,
right?
All these things,
right?
So it's challenging. Religion will be destroyed. All these other things. So I'm comfortable knowing that they know and they have it contained.
But do they have it contained if people are waking up to these things in their bed, or not in their bed, but next to their bed, or?
So I think I think that's why we're allowed to do what we do and it hasn't been stopped, because movements and protests, like, you know, all those things happen all the time. And then there's a lot of movement that happens before change happens, but they are restricted to what can be changed unless the people make a change, right? We get more experiencers together. With my research, as I explained, one of my main goals is to take all this data together and present that in such a way to be like, hey, I need answers here, because some of these people could benefit from mental health services to verify whether or not this is true. You don't want to be considered crazy, but can we at least, like, can you help me here on a professional level to just to make sure that this isn't real? Because I think it's real, based on all these other testimonies.
Oh, it would be great for them to prove to some people, right? Like, oh, this isn't real, it's fine, and it's real.
So that's why when you get into all these circumstances, the government will eventually assist with civilian agencies and things like that too, when they see enough push and cause for it, and that's when they start funding. But when they fund, that's when everything changes, because they now have control, because they now have the money. So are they funding it to help, or are they funding it to regulate it and to keep it controlled? What are your thoughts on that? And then we'll take our commercial break.
Yeah, the thoughts on that are, I agree with that. Is there an ulterior motive? Which is one of the reasons why I see Avi Loeb does not want to have a lot to do with the government when he's running his Galileo project, because he does not want them to have their talents. He didn't say this. This is like paraphrasing. He doesn't want them to have rights over things that he's found with his project or his study. And I get that, because the second you collaborate with somebody, it's theirs too.
But he's got to make his own money somehow in order to fund the project and things like that too.
Absolutely. Is it easier to take money that you're not sure what sort of strings are attached to, or is it better to take the longer, harder route and get independent funding and get the research that is completely yours that you can share with the public?
It just takes one person in this world to find that definitive proof, and then it's an answer for everybody. If it's not going to come from the government's giving us enough of information for us to put the pieces together. I think they just want us to figure it out. And once we figure it out, what do we do with it? And
we're working for free, right? They're not. For the most part,
We just need to evolve as humans. So I think we're the special ones. I think we are gifted. We're able to see it. I know gifted's not a good word to use, but I think there's more human element to it than we realize. And they don't want to tell us that, because then we become more powerful. And, we get into remote viewing and all that other consciousness stuff.
Yep.
So we'll pause right here, and we'll continue after a message from our sponsors. If you're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, this audio only version, head over to youtube.com/the Experience Support Association to see the video that goes with the audio. You're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. people that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
Welcome to the Observation Deck, a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind virtual platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus, just like you would in real life. First, you install the application and design your very own unique avatar. Then you're free to explore the various areas of the campus at any time from anywhere. There's so many areas and activities to choose from on the platform. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, a large expo hall, a movie theater, a nightclub, an art gallery, and even a beach. Come attend a conference or take a class or hear a lecture. Meet new friends and interact directly with presenters. It's all right here on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Where in the world will you go?
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today by going to tesacan.org/EA. That's TESACAN.org/EA. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Have you ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dog man, or any other paracryptid? Head over to our website, experienceyoursupport.org, and submit a report. Let the others who have already reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. If it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that, we thank you. And if you're wondering where I get this hat like this cool hat that I'm wearing today, please visit www.tinfoilcap.co. Every purchase made goes to support the Leak Project. Thank you, Rex Bear. You're in the chat. I saw you. You got your tester shirt today. I'm glad you have it. I'm sitting in the chair with him tomorrow for a interview, and I hope you're wearing that shirt because it'll be good. It'll be like Freaky Friday. I'm wearing your hat. You're wearing my shirt. It'll be a good episode. Okay, so where do we want to? What about psyops? So we're kind of leaning towards that. So if it's human oriented, just to try and figure out, bounce some ideas about what may be happening. Is it possible that these aren't beings and these may be some sort of manipulated thoughts projected into experiencers' minds in order to, I don't know, for some other purpose? What do you think of that?
I think that it's definitely a possibility in some cases because a lot of the beings that we're encountering, whether they're alien, extraterrestrial, or interdimensional. I think that their reality may only be perceived by us to our capability of perceiving it. So they're at like they are just as they are, right? A certain vibration, a certain frequency, a certain being, and that's their absolute. And our reality is to perceive this information being thrown at us to the best of our ability. And I think in some cases it's that we're just doing what we can with the information we're getting to our brains. Like our brain's limited sometimes, maybe in perceiving what they actually are. So we're filling in the blanks just like our brain will do if you cover one eye, or you know what I mean? However, I think that there are some beings out there that may be placing the thoughts into our heads, right? Because
why
maybe
do you think they would do that, though? What's the motive behind that?
I just think that the varying amount of experiences and descriptions, there are a lot of commonalities, but when you read something like Operation Trojan Horse by Keel's book, or if you read Messengers of Deception by Jacques Vallée, it's just case after case, and there are a lot of similarities. However, there's those outliers that just don't seem to make sense, and not a lot of people seem to know why. So are they just projecting this into our head because it's easier for them to do their work? Do you know if they are nefarious, say they are in here doing, experiments on us or whatever, there's a lot of different theories around experiments, right? What if they're just putting these thoughts into our heads so we can process it? Or maybe it's just easier, like, for them to work on us with these illusions being put into our brain. I don't think that's true a lot of the time, just to say that. But there are cases where you're like, well, why is their experience so different than some? Or why are all these experiences from, like the Greys, for example, why are people always taken into these sterile environments? Is that real, or is it something being projected?
It does have that experiment type vibe. Like a movie came to mind was Mercury Rising. Have you ever seen that movie?
I believe that I saw it a while ago, but I couldn't recall.
It's got Bruce Willis in it. It's got the boy there from The Sixth Sense or whatever, I think. But anyways, basically the CIA puts a code in a puzzle book, and then
that's right. Yes, I remember it now.
It solved it, and then all of a sudden he's like this, like they want to get him because he code break the most notorious code that could ever be broken. So I mean, the narrative is that they did it as a joke. They didn't think it would ever happen, but it happened. But what if it wasn't a joke? What if it was intentional? Maybe they are projecting something out there, a net projection, and some of us are tuning into it. Some of us are responding to it. And are they evolving us? Are they changing us? Are they trying to make us better? And are they trying to make us crazy? Is like to each as the subject matter, we're going to have one way or the other on anything we test, right? So if they're intending on harming us, and then those that can't be harmed, that's obviously the other side that they're attacking. I would suggest that the reason behind that is because they don't want us to be better than what we are. They don't want us to take over. But what if they want to encourage us to be better, and this negative stuff is just a side effect?
Right.
Right.
That could make sense, because just because something is scary doesn't mean that there's intent to harm, right? Mm-hmm. Anything can be scary if you're viewing it a certain way. Think of I've suffered anxiety for a long time. Things that are not scary to normal people would put me in like a panic attack. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's how we're processing the energy of the moment. And that doesn't mean like it's like we're taught like a demon. Now I'm even questioning what are demons now at this point. Like the traditional demon, I'm here to hurt you and take your soul or whatever. Like it doesn't feel like that sometimes, but it's still scary, right? But then there's things where you're like, I know this thing's gonna hurt me, or it's trying to hurt me. But is it hurting you as a side effect, like you said, or is it actually trying to hurt you? If it's actually trying to hurt you, why are you still here? Why aren't why do you live to tell, right?
about it. Exactly. So the intent, that's what I'm trying to narrow down, is to prove the motive and the intent. And then once you can establish the intent, you might be able to determine who the suspect are, who's responsible.
Suspects, right? Because there's so many different types of beings that people experience.
Yeah. So, and that's it. They have to test it. There's all these rules and things like that too. What better way to experiment with the mind, because it can't be proven. And if you do speak out, they medicate you, they lock you in a room, and they like schizophrenia. There's all these options available in case the experience goes haywire. So with this hive consciousness, I think if this is the way that it needs to go, they need more of us to develop these abilities, more of us to teach others or encourage others like yourself to enhance and empower these abilities. And then that way we're capable of doing something, whatever it is that they need to do. They're not going to tell us to do that. But if we figure it out on our own, and I think for some of us, we do figure it out on our own, because we do things like podcast, and we have this feeling where we need to do something to give back to the others that might be feeling that. So you do that. You have a podcast, right?
Right.
So let me just I'm going to bring that up now. Let's talk about that. Tell me about your show. What do you do here?
Well, it started as just something fun. A couple of years ago, I had a metaphysical education company with a friend, and we sold all sorts of like meditation kits or spell kits, stuff like that. So it started there. But I always just ended up back with like the UFO stuff, like always going back to it because of the one experience. Out of all the demons and ghosts and whatever I experienced, that one always stood out. The things in the sky that I couldn't explain, or aliens, right? For the longest time, I was like, oh, they're just aliens. But again, we come to question things. So when Clubhouse came out, I started a little room in there called Quantum Wytch Cafe, because it was kind of like a thought baby. Like, I'm a coffee addict. I love cafes. I like old cafes. Like, I mean, there's a lot of Dunkin' and Starbucks in this area because I'm in a city now, but I just love the thought of going to like an old cafe and talking about, like, having deep conversations like you would over a campfire. But a lot of people have these in coffee shops. So, or I have with people. I've had like, beautiful connections with people in coffee shops. So that's kind of like the cafe part of it. The quantum part of it is I do have like this science mind, and I'm also a witch. So that's how like the name came about. But I just want it to be this place where people could gather and talk about all sorts of strange and paranormal things. And it's okay to talk about it. Like, nobody's going to laugh at you. Nobody's going to say you're crazy. And then the book thing kind of just happened. I just have a horrible like book addiction. I think a lot of people that are addicted to coffee shops also are addicted to books for some reason. I don't know what the correlation is, but I don't know. I just wanted to talk to other people about weird things. So I created the channel, and I don't have like a goal besides meeting like-minded people. The book thing just ended up being so I can talk to some of my favorite authors and documentarians, and people. I am trying to implement more experiencer stories once a month. That way I can have, a featured experiencer. But yeah, that's kind of how everything came about. And it's turning into kind of like I talk to authors that I admire, or other people in the field that I admire, like Nathaniel, or, you have like Savita as a starseed, she turns on people's, she activates people. She's got her bowl in that picture. So I just like talking to interesting people about weird things. In the past, I've had witches on to talk about their work as well. And you'll find that when you talk to witches, I feel like every witch I've talked to has had some sort of weird interdimensional being visit, or alien, or ET, whatever you want to label it. But yeah, right now it's kind of shifting to books. I'm going to be taking the channel in a little bit of a different direction, kind of more like 20-minute, 30-minute talks on something I'm studying. Like right now I have a bunch of stuff lined up to talk about the gateway process, and with the Monroe Institute, or not with the Ramones, the Monroe Institute's gateway process. I've been obsessed with that paper that was, declassified, because that paper, not so much the paper itself, but it's led me down different rabbit holes about consciousness that I really find interesting, and how that could relate to how we experience the phenomena, like in our dream state, in a hypnagogic state, like where time is so different. Growing up the way I've grown up with my witchy beliefs, dream time is a whole nother place. It's not just a dream to me. So, but I'm finding that more people feel that way than will admit in the past that, more people are saying, yeah, it was a dream, but it was real and it had a message or something. And then you get into the whole quantum mechanics side of things, the many worlds theories, how the relative versus the absolute. Like, just because this is our reality does not mean that it's the only reality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go into another space, none of this might matter. And if it's the extraterrestrial space or the interdimensional being space,
it could be all the same space.
Well, yeah, I think there were, we could be woven in with one another, right? But just on different frequencies.
Different people can get to this space by doing different things at different times in different ways. The space exists. When we dream, who knows where we're going, but but it could be the same space.
Does it have to be physical? Do you have to go anywhere to experience anything?
No.
Are we actually going anywhere when we're going somewhere here? Because you can't prove that to me. You can through Newtonian physics, but when we look into quantum mechanics and all these weird physics concepts, that all kind of falls apart. And that leaves a lot of space open to explain Yeti, Sasquatch, spirits, cryptids, aliens, interdimensionals, ultra-terrestrial, the umbrella term,
It's just there's so many weird things and wild things out there and varieties of it that all us people experience, and no one's able to capture any of it. No evidence of it at all. Just getting close. So in order for it to all exist, it would make sense if it was in our minds, or our minds are able to travel to this place, because that's where it's all happening. And perhaps us as experiencers don't realize that what we're seeing in this world isn't actually in this world. We have the ability to see both worlds at the same time and not realizing that it's happening, which is why when you take a photo and you look at it later and be like, how come I didn't get it? Because the camera is in this world, but your mind is in the other, and you're seeing them together. And that would be the smoking gun. That would be the ultimate disclosure, to be like, yes, consciousness is alive. Consciousness is connected to all of us. And, this is God, So
yeah, it feels like all that is kind of recent though, right? It's so recent if you think about like our history as humans, to say that I feel like we're almost circling around, because the people that used to see in between worlds were the shamans or the medicine people, right? They used to have value in the society.
And that was normal to them back in the ancient and all that stuff.
And now we're like, well, we can't.
And then now we're just kind of getting up to speed. We're like, oh, now it makes sense. But
physicists are like, well, we're beginning to think this and that. And I'm like, bro, I'm a witch. I thought this the whole time, like. Or not, you don't even have to be a witch, just a spiritual person or open-minded person. It's strange that you have to be self-conscious about thinking these sorts of things in certain settings, right? Like, I don't talk to anybody in my family about this. Nobody, not even my closest people. I think the closest that have come is like my son had a question about a cemetery we were driving by, because his school was across from a cemetery. Yeah. And he started asking all these questions about like what happens to you when you die. That's probably my 5-year-old son's probably the last person I had face.
We're still trying to figure that one out.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I told him all the different things that people thought was going on, and other people just don't want to talk about it. Like, there people just don't care in some cases. They're just like, no, I'm good. I'll watch the game and that's it,
Well, there's different types of people. The one guest you mentioned here, I don't have the screen shared, but it's still on my screen here, the starseed, right?
Yeah.
Starseed is a term that's quite often used to identify a select type of beings within the beings that are, part of the old way or the new way or current way or whatever, I mean, something's up. And that's why I like working with the people and understanding the people and trying to encourage them to use their abilities for good, because then that'll catch on, that'll spread like wildfire, and they will maybe activate more star seeds and things like that. And then if we're all vibrating on the same frequency and we're all vibrating positively, then that would help negate the negative thoughts and all that other stuff too, because everything's energy. So call yourself a witch. You say this. So to you, what is a witch? How would you describe that? How does that apply to you? And I'm just curious to know why you use a Y instead of an I.
Well, that's a lot of questions. I can answer them all, maybe not in order, but I consider myself a witch because since I could read, I was curious about different spiritualities and religions and finding kind of like the common thread in that. And as I went through school, you learn about physics and atoms and all that. And then at one point I realized magic and prayer and all this stuff is just physics. It's just energy, right? And when you're doing witchy things, you're actually utilizing the energies or spirits in some cases, like plant spirits. So that's why the whole Quantum Wytch thing happened. And I consider myself a witch because I like to work with energies around me, whether the energy is like burning a bay leaf is a super common thing for good luck, or carrying one. You're working with the energy of that plant. It has a specific signature and atomic structure that makes it a bay leaf, and people seem to get luck when they carry it. So if you get smaller and smaller and think like on the quantum level or atomic level, like only certain combinations of things are going to make a bay leaf. Only certain elements are going to create a bay leaf or whatever plant or herb you're using, or anything really. So, and even the dead things like glass and plastic were once part of a living thing. And then you get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's all just energy. It's all just the same stuff rearranged so many times. So I think that scientists are a little witchy too without realizing it, and I think that witches are a little scientisty sometimes without realizing it. Well, to put it simple.
Really good way of putting it. Yes.
And
they are
why
they're afraid of.
Right, they are, and it's so funny that we have there's so many commonalities between people that consider themselves opposites than they realize, because it's just the other side of the coin. You're like right next to this person. It's only a matter of time before they converge and we realize it's all connected. That's what I think. I can't prove that, obviously, but what can you prove nowadays, really? The Y is from the term weird, which actually used to mean wise. If you search like the meaning of the word YRD. So that's where that came from. And I'm not I'm not in a coven. So I kind of felt I still feel like an outlier as a witch. So I don't follow one type of thing. Like I'm not like a Norse witch. I'm not this witch or that witch, green witch. I'm a little bit of everything. But then it all ties back to, I would say, physics and energy. That's all magic is manipulating energy. And even when you pray, you're using your words that are vibration to carry out through the universe to get this thing that you want. I don't know. So that's kind of it in a scatterbrain nutshell.
No, it identifies who you are, and that's your reasoning behind it. No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. I mean, it speaks to the research elements as well, why you're so involved with this, and with your experiences too, right? It just fits. So
if I'm okay, and I'm okay with going to sleep at night nowadays, saying I was visited by something from another dimension. And even if it is an ET, they're visiting me.
And that's powerful for you to admit and to say for yourself.
Yeah.
And by saying that here in front of, anybody, I mean, that's helpful because others, might be feeling the same and they don't say anything either. They're just listening.
You can be okay with your experience. You can be okay with what you think is happening. Maybe it is happening like that for you.
When you're trying to prove something, you have to consider who you're trying to convince.
Yeah.
So the person or people that you're trying to convince will determine what you need to prove. So if you're only trying to convince yourself, you need little proof. As long as you believe, it's just a matter of where you fit in, because we have this need. No one wants to be alone. We have this need to want to be in this group or something, and among like people. So I think before like this new age of talking about experiences, there was a lot of oppression. There's a lot of people not being able to talk openly about it. And this UFO disclosure movement or whatnot, whatever it is, whatever motive it is, it's allowing us to speak about it more freely,
right,
and more comfortable. And perhaps that was the plan, to remove the stigma so we could talk about it and not be laughed about.
I like that. I like that, because we hear so much the doom and gloom motive, right? We hear so much that they're just trying to invoke fear in us by saying it's national security. You hear so much of like the negative possibilities. I like that you said maybe it was a plan. Whose plan is it? I don't know. But the plan is to get more people's light bulbs turning on and realizing like, hey, like this is real. We're not all that different. We literally are not that different. You know what I mean? If we like get burned and ground up and mixed together, it's going to be really hard to differentiate unless you do some hardcore science.
Well, we as the people have the power to change as well. So to give us that little bit of energy or that little bit of opportunity to, rally up the troops, we strengthen numbers. We might be able to, do some good. What harm would it be if a bunch of light workers got together and all of a sudden meditated on the same thing, and all of a sudden at a quantum level changed the world? But there's so many people. I believe that there is the amount of people that are woke, I guess, if I can use that term properly. I don't know if I'm using it properly, versus those who are not, who are still sleeping. I think we need to wake more people up. And if we wake more people up and they start to realize that, then none of this other stuff matters. We're not focusing on the negative. We're not focusing on the trauma. War. What? Who can? Another one? It's just that. Also, when negative things happens, we all feel it. Like when the Queen died. Whether you're, I don't know if that works for America, but we all felt it.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of American, right? And it depends on what sort of Canadian.
The whole world, the whole world was resonating, I guess, in some way, or at least thinking about it.
Yep, in some way, yeah.
Some might be celebrating all those other things. But I mean, it's just moments like that when the whole world has that same thought or same
right.
feeling, and you could feel that. It's like the retrogrades, when the planets are aligned in certain ways, everybody in this feels it, and you don't know why. And then it's only the spiritual ones that are all like, hey, well, it's the retrograde. My wife always,
you're watching people lose their mind. Yeah.
Around like an angry person. It's because the stupid planets are aligned. Why didn't you tell me that these were coming? Right. But like, you don't know these things. And there's a lot of us, who are experiencing the phenomenon, but don't call it the phenomenon, because simply we don't think it's aliens or any of that other stuff. We're just trying to live our life, trying to get to the end, trying to reach these goals and make it to the end. But still a common thing. The phenomenon exists in every single one of us. Some are using it, some are not using it. And with great power comes great responsibility. So flip it around. We have these abilities, but we haven't worked through or processed trauma.
Yeah.
We could cause just as much harm.
And you have to figure that out, right? To free up more energy to do more things that are healing you and other people.
Mm-hmm. If you want to move an object, you can move that object to, to save someone's life or to end it.
It's true.
Right. So that's another thing too, that if the government is holding on to that nugget, saying that, we do have the ability to do this, and we've known this, and this is how, are you willing to bet that there's more good people than bad people on this planet?
No, I don't know. I want to think so.
And we all get superpowers at the same time, or just realize how to get into it?
No, there was that one movie, right, where people had no rules.
The Purge?
Yep, The Purge. Yeah, I had a nightmare about that I was in that. I'm like, I'm not trying to kill anybody. How'd I get out here? But
But if we had superpowers in that movie, we'd be able to survive.
oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's interesting to think about if everybody got superpowers like right now.
Yeah, well, would that solve the world's problems, or would that just create more problems for everybody else? Because how many people? Because we need more people doing more good things, and then there has to be a balance. When we have politics, you got Democrats and Republicans. Here is liberals and conservatives. But I mean, once one way doesn't work anymore, they go the other way to balance it for a little bit to adapt until you get to this unified feeling. But this unified feeling only lasts for so long, and the only way we're going to get unity is if they all tell us and the same thing, and we're all on the same page, and we all have the same understanding and stop fighting with each other. Okay, where do you want to go with this? We're in a rabbit hole. We are beyond the tinfoil.
We are. Yeah, I don't know.
Quantum Wytch, we talked about other things here. Talked with the government, psyops. Is there? Well, you said you're a researcher, so is there anything that stands out in your mind that you've researched in and out in your, that you're most fascinated with and confident with, I guess?
I think that the dream aspect in connection with consciousness and possible many world theories is kind of caught my eye a lot throughout reading about everything, really. Now there's more stuff for us to read about consciousness and people's theories on it. It's easier to get now. You don't have to go to a library, right? I don't even know if people listening to this have been to a library in the past month, but you don't have to. So you have all this information, and it's interesting to see so many people experiences in their dreams or in sleep paralysis, hypnagogic state. All that stuff really fascinates me because it really sticks with people. People will call me or message me saying I had this dream, and it's not always an ET dream or an abduction dream. It could be any kind of spiritual dream that they've had, and but it felt so real is what they always say. So that is kind of where my focus is going now. What is reality? And if we're perceiving, if the waking life is an illusion and we're saying it's real, but if dream time that people say is just your imagination or an illusion, what makes that any less real? And I know other researchers have asked this. So it's, where do we draw the line between an actual experience, or can you draw the line between an actual experience? Can you put that in a box? For some people, they only have sleep paralysis and dreams about this stuff, and then they wake up with some marks, but that's it, right? So I think the whole experience or aspect of it, when it comes to their consciousness and how some of them feel like their consciousness was taken out of their body, not necessarily their body out of their room. That kind of is haunting to me, because then they could take you anywhere, for better or for worse, right? You can go to some beautiful planet with some beautiful beings, or you can end up on some crazy table getting something shoved up your nose. You don't really know. So I think the whole how people's consciousness interacts with the phenomena is kind of where I'm really gearing my focus lately to. Also really focusing on I'm still interested in the whole astrobiology aspect of it, because I'm one of the people that thinks there has to be something out there, even if that's not what's interacting with experiencers. They're where is there a possibility for life out there, so to speak, in the cosmos? So the next thing I will be studying, in a school setting, is planetary science. So all my molecular biology is going to be geared towards that. Sorry, we had a fire truck go by.
I think that was here.
It just went by. I have a window right here.
I have a window here, so I don't know if that was
time.
Weird. That was weird.
No, it was right here. I saw it go by right there. So
okay. I thought I heard
at the same time. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
That's weird.
But yes, the consciousness stuff in a nutshell is kind of where I'm gearing it all, and how that actually plays, our consciousness. The whole stuff from like slide 9, human cognitive human interface, how they might, and that slide also mentions the manipulation of our thoughts in a way, and at the bottom it says what was once thought phenomena is now just explained as physics, and you're like, what? Like, just like that, you're just gonna put that at the bottom?
I got a thought here, but there's a question from Cece. She's asking you if you've ever read Biocentrism.
I have not, but I will write it down.
Okay. I'm not a book reader, so I have to say, Cece knows that. I write reports. That's it. Okay, so on this topic of you understanding and researching this and coming back to the healing aspect, and the witch element, if we accept the possibility that the mental phenomena, the mental psyops can exist, and there may be people trying to negatively influence us or impact us, they have the ability to get into our minds. How is there anything that you know or could think of that we could do to help protect the mind? Is there some sort of protection that we could just do so that way, if that were to happen, we would prevent that from happening?
So a lot of people like to use crystals or oils or plants or spells to protect themselves, but you have to think about extending a normal protection spell into the other realms or the other dimensions. So if you're getting these, if these attacks are happening while you're asleep, or you feel like you're being taken while you're asleep, then you want to start working on protecting your energetic body as well as your physical body.
Okay.
So this might be like way out there for some of you, but we do have different layers to ourselves. Just think about your soul, basically. You got to think about protecting that soul or that ethereal body or the energetic body. There's so many different things that people call it. To do that, it's honestly a lot of visualization. It's kind of like before you go to sleep, if you know you're vulnerable when you go to sleep to these experiences, setting your parameters before bed, almost like you're getting ready to lucid dream or astral travel. Lucid dreaming is kind of like the first step to astral travel. So you want to set, your bedtime ritual where you're putting down, you're either doing a visualization of surrounding yourself in some sort of protective light or protective visualization. It could be a cage if you want. The trick is you have to kind of believe that you're allowed to do that. Because the last experience I had with all the grays was a horrible experience. I had a sleep paralysis there by my bed, and I was in a good meditation practice and a good lucid dreaming practice. And I went back there the next night and I told them I didn't want that anymore. I said, take me to whoever is in charge of you. And I told them I don't want this anymore, that I'm done. And I haven't had an experience since. But I had to believe that I was capable of it, because in the past, you feel like a victim when this is happening. And I'm 38, so it's taken me 38 years to figure out that you do have agency in your energetic and your astral body, which is a lot of complicated things, but you have to start with setting parameters before you go to bed if you feel like that's when you're most vulnerable. Like when I sleep tonight, I'm only things that are allowed to touch me and my astral body is angels, or you have to get like your dream setting. I only want grandma to visit me in my dreams, or I only want spirits to be, or beings to be in my dreams that are helpful, loving, and beneficial. And it sounds like you're kind of bullshitting it at first, but the more you do it, the more it kind of like activates different parts of you, and you become aware that you're allowed to say no, even in these astral situations or out of body situations.
And it's so understanding that, like, you are taking confidence, or anyone who's in this situation is aware of it. They are expressing that energy back to repel against the energy. There may be, that's energy connecting with energy, and then there's reinforcement or resistance, I guess, that is present on the other side that perhaps stops them from trying. So it's interesting too to know, like, to be able to prove that in an experiment, someone to try to mentally enter a mind and prove that it was there, instill a thought, and then do the same test with the same people when they put up a protection spell to see, what the person putting the thought out experienced in response to hitting that wall or that bubble you put up. How does that, what does that happen on the other side? I'm just thinking of like,
oh, for sure. I literally started adding in all realms at the end of any protection spell that I do now, because
even if it's not true, it's
not going to hurt, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to hurt you to sleep with a rock under your bed, honestly.
And you sleep, rocks are better than knives,
That's true.
But
I mean, depending, but you could take somebody out with a good sized rock as well if it's a physical person. So
that's your American speaking right there.
I know, right? We're always worried about people breaking in. National security.
Okay, so let's we're gonna do our final segment, and then we'll talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll talk about, as we close the show, we'll talk about where you're going to be next. Okay. So this final segment is called "Sorry, Not Sorry." Play the little jingle right here. All right, so I've been doing this for the whole season. When are we on episode 31? Sometimes I don't do it, but I feel like this would be a good conversation for you. So let me just get my thing there. All right, so it's a social experiment. Let me explain. Here are the rules. I'm going to ask you one question, and I'm going to time how long it takes you to answer it after. Okay, so this is a social experiment. No right or wrong answers. Do you accept the challenge?
Yes.
All right, so with all the knowledge and experience you have, what shape is the Earth?
Round.
Ooh, that was quick. 1 second. That was quick. Round. So you're pretty confident on that?
I think so, yes.
Okay. The reason why I've been asking that question is because everybody on the show, some gives a different answer. No one can agree on the shape of the Earth. I spent some time talking to, I do talk to a lot of people in the Flat Earth movement, trying to understand why they are the way that they are.
Yeah.
And I do, they're fighting the same fight. They believe that NASA's lying, they believe the same things, and they just want the truth. And they just so happen to think that, the Earth might not be exactly what it is. So on that topic, you say it's round. Have you ever been to space?
Not physically.
Yes. So how do you know for sure? How do you know they're not lying about that? You say the government's lying about all these other things, but they're telling the truth about space? I
don't know. I've dreamt about Earth being round, and I've had astral experiences where it's round. So that's
Lisa listening. There's another one who's had the travel around the Earth there through an experience that says the Earth is round. I just like to use that topic because it's controversial sometimes.
Oh, and it's funny too. Sometimes when you see people talking about, some people get mad, but it's also funny sometimes.
Well, why do they get mad? Because it might be possible, and it changes their way of thinking, and it's. If you want to know how the moon landing was fake, ask somebody who believes the Earth is flat, because they have a lot of science.
Oh yeah, I've been down that rabbit hole. I've been down it. I just didn't.
And that would help a ufologist too, because they're fighting the same rabbit there. So we're all connected. We just all believe that there's something not right.
Something's off. We all know something's off, right? We just can't agree on what.
So in order for the Earth to be flat, there would have to be a dome, which means this is a simulation, perhaps. So what are your thoughts on this world being a simulation?
I agree with the world being a simulation, but I don't agree with it being flat, unless maybe you're in a reality where it is flat, since it is a simulation.
Well, it can be flat and round. It's just the plane is flat, and there could be something outside that's round too. There's a whole.
What do they call it? The firmament.
Yeah, the firmament. But there's a dome within the dome. So
man.
So hey, if we're going down the rabbit hole and all these other conspiracies, this is possible.
Why not? Yeah.
This is why I always leave it to the end. And when a lot of people are quick to be like, no, that's not possible. It's impossible. But yet. There's
perception. I'm a big proponent of perception.
We're lacking the same amount of evidence. We still need confirmation. It's still possible. Our ancestors believed the Earth was flat. Our ancestors also believed we were visited by aliens.
That's true.
in the Bible, it talks about both. It talks about how the earth is, allegedly flat, and that there's aliens. And
firmaments and not firmaments. Got it.
So is the government protecting the truth? So is this the truth that they're protecting? That they
the
don't
Bible?
To know? Well, sorry, that's just the first
book.
I
was like, we're gonna need 2 more hours to unpack the Bible.
Yeah. so is that the secret they're protecting, or are they trying to tell us that this was wrong and go through the right way and all these other things? What do you think?
I'm going to say no on that one. I'm not sure because that would make space travel a lot easier if all the Earths were flat. All the worlds were flat. We could just drive on over to Saturn or whatever they want to call the next flat piece of universe.
That's if the other planets exist. They might actually be in the same solar system. They might be seen. So there's lots of things.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that one, too. It's like the image of a gobstopper on those candies, like just a layer, and then the next layer is another Earth or another planet.
Here's a question. Let me, before I go into this part here, that your screen that you got behind you, is that an actual picture of the Earth?
Oh yeah, I'm there now.
Or is that CGI?
No, I'm up there now. See, it doesn't look round now that I'm looking at it. So now I'm just confused.
It kind of looks flat to me. And
it kind of does.
Yeah. All right.
It might be bending. It might be what is the word I'm looking for? Crescent shaped.
Yeah. It kind of looks like you're in the International Space Station. I can't tell the difference.
Well, I work for the government, so I can't answer that.
Okay, so we got 10 minutes left. This is your link tree. Tell me what do people want to find on here?
Oh my goodness. So you have my YouTube channel, and then my Twitter and all my social media stuff. It's also at the bottom because that's how it is. I have some stuff on there, like some podcasts I've been on. I have some resources like UAPD.com. That green thing down there is a resource for videos, books, everything. And the guy updates it daily. So if you're looking for something to watch, something to read, recent interviews, recent articles, it's all on this webpage, and he's a friend of mine. So that's why that's on there. Anything you want to put on there, he has. So as if it's UFO related, you can find it on his page, and you can always message him if you think something should be on there, and he's pretty receptive. Some of that's just links to YouTubes I've been on because somebody told me I should do that. So I did that. I have UAP Media UK on there because they tend to do a lot of work with different things. Like they were the ones that brought out the Calvine, the actual Calvine photo. And they do a lot of great articles on older cases that are UK based. So that's kind of cool because we hear a lot about the American stuff, Roswell, whatever, but they do UK stuff. So I have them on there because they put a lot of work in.
Okay. What do you know about Canada?
I know the one that stands out to me is, oh my gosh, why is it leaving my brain? The lake one where he got burns all over his body. Falcon Lake.
Falcon Lake, yeah.
You need to make a Canadian site. Do you have a tab on yours?
This is it. This is all Canadian.
Oh, I know you're Canadian, but I didn't know if you had like an area that like this is all Canadian.
If you go to investigations, you go evidence. You can explore all here, but our timeline, everything's Canadian here. This is all Canada. Everything you need, all right here.
I'm curious about the Sasquatch stuff happening in Canada. So you guys got some pretty remote forests out there.
Yeah, I haven't got any reports on Sasquatch yet, but
really, I thought about all that. We drove from Arizona to Alaska, and when we went through Canada, like Yukon and British Columbia, I was just like, the wilderness out there is just so big. So this is the next thing. The big thing.
You wanted to talk about at the end.
Yes. I will be co-hosting with a couple people, J. Christopher King and James Iandoli from Engaging the Phenomena, and Kelly Chase from UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. These are going to be the speakers up the top. There's still online tickets available, but those are the hosts. Will be announcing different people, but Jay and James put it on. A lot of cool people are going to be speaking from different areas, talking about the phenomena. We have, Gary Nolan doing the biology stuff. We have Mitch Horowitz doing some of the kind of mind mentalism stuff, and then we have, I always mess up Dr. Sean's last name, Esbjorn Hargens. He does a lot of the consciousness studies, and he has a great website himself if you want to do classes on consciousness in relation to different phenomena. Darren has a website, Exo Academian, where he talks about everything from abductions to consciousness to history. And Dr. Tim Grieve Carson. So it's a lot of, I feel like it's a good mix of biology meets consciousness, meets human, like understanding the human potential and interaction with our consciousness and different phenomena. But that's going to be next Saturday, and you can get online tickets because the in-person ones sold out because it's a pretty small venue. So yeah, I hope to see people online there, and it's going to be exciting to hear everybody speak and meet a lot of people in person.
How do you get a ticket? I just clicked that and it said,
oh,
it doesn't. Oh,
so
no.
there might be, okay, I might have to change. I'll put the online link on there. It looks like I have the one to, it might be on the drop down menu up to the left to get the online tickets. I think that I posted, that's the online one. So I'll get that fixed and get it on my link tree for online tickets.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, it's there for those who want to find it. And then where can they find you? What's the best one to find, to contact you at?
If you want to contact me, either Twitter or Instagram is kind of, and they're all at the very bottom. That's all the main links there. But they're also in the list because somebody told me I should do that. So some people are like, you need to put it in the list too. But I tend to be on Twitter and Instagram the most. I do have a Facebook, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really go on as often.
So I'm just putting the links in the chat box for everybody.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think Instagram and Twitter are the best way to get a hold of me. If you're an author, I would love to have you on to talk about your work. Anything paranormal, fringe, mostly UFOs, you know. Even I've been trying to get a cryptid person on. So if you know anybody that's into cryptid stuff, I've been trying to get a good paranormal person on, like that does paranormal investigation. So if you know anybody, hook it up. And yeah, if you want to come on and talk about your experience, message me as well. You know people? Wait, do you know yourself? You can come on.
I was just joking because I might know somebody who knows a thing or two about those. That's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're going to do the after chat. So for those of you who are in the chat, stick around because we're going to say hello to all of you folks, and we're going to digest this episode and talk about what's coming for Tessa, and then close the week off because I don't work Fridays. So yeah. Is there anything else you want to leave for the folks?
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, and I need to watch more of your episodes because I was looking at some of the stuff you had on there and it looks really interesting, and I'm curious about your investigation stuff. So I'm definitely going to be following you more closely.
I appreciate that. Thanks for checking that out. A couple of things you said there. You said you did a couple of things because people told you should do that. So
yes.
Do what you want to do.
I know, but people, it'll be easier to find you if you do this and that, you know. So.
But yeah, no, that's cool. All right, awesome. So everybody, thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky, and we'll see you at the after chat. Heat the world. Goodbye.
That's it, everybody. That is a wrap. That is the end of it all. Thank you for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you back next week, where we'll continue to have this conversation deep down into the rabbit hole in which we call the ultra spectrum. Thanks for joining us. I said that already. Oh well, fuck it. Heat the world.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I have an early flight tomorrow, so I can't hang out, but please feel free to reach out or to me via DM. Well, thank you, Pricilla.
Thank you so much.
We will be in touch. I think Cece has mentioned to me that she's meeting with you next week, right? Is that right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
before knowing all these things, that was cool. Now this is even more cool. We'll have a good trip. So, how'd you find her?
How did I find her?
You were going to tell me this morning, and I stopped you because I didn't want to know. But how did you find her? Where'd you find her?
Well, it's super weird because like I was telling you, I identify as a quantum witch as well, and like I joined TikTok, got certain people I just resonated towards, and I saw her, and I follow her, and I still do. So like how I operate is really weird. I just follow people until I decide not to anymore. And so, like, I started kind of looking at her channel a little bit more because I saw that she identified as a quantum witch too, and listening to what she had to say, and like, very much in alignment with her. And then saw too that she was doing this book club, and I'm like, well, geez, that's another interest of mine too, and really thought, I should get to know this person and talk to them and see what their plans are for the future, and if maybe they'd be willing to work with us.
The book club idea kind of falls in line with your ultra spectrum library.
Yeah.
So I see that now, and that's what you were suggesting earlier. So that's interesting. So that's good. So you're a fan. Awesome. Good.
Yeah, well, and I didn't realize, like, from like her story, just very similar to my story and upbringing and how I found the same path. So it was kind of almost like eerie, but interesting at the same time. I'm looking forward to get to know her more.
Cool. All right, let's say hello to our people. Shane Franks, welcome. Said so excited. Are you new to the channel? Good to see you. Cece, hi Cece. Hello.
Hello.
What's that say? Whores love that. Love fat. Lover fat? What's that say? Horse lover fat?
Yeah, I think that's meant to be like one of those things. If you say it really fast, it sounds bad, Good job.
I don't know. I don't want to try it in case it's too loud. Hello, welcome to the channel. If you're still here, what else did you say? You said fourth kind gave you nightmares. It's an uncomfortable show for sure.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, you mentioned Experiencers Anonymous, October 26th. Thank you. She might be interested in participating in that too if you talk to her about EA.
Yeah, just like kind of introduce Tessa a little bit more, what we do, and see what happens.
Skinny Bob, hello.
Hello, Skinny Bob.
Who else do we got here? Thought I saw. Oh yeah, Rex. Hello, Rex. If you're still here, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Cool hat. Yeah. And he's got the shirt. He's got the shirt. So I can't wait to see you in the shirt tomorrow. So that's going to be awesome. Brownbeard. Hello, sir. Good evening. Good evening, Brownbeard. Lisa. Hi, Lisa. And Keeping Up with Spirits Paranormal. Hello. What is that? Sophia, right? Sophia?
Yes, Sophia.
Sarah. Right. Jay Crown, welcome to the channel. Hello. Vinman, hello. Would you say, what if sensation of deja vu is actually the process of another consciousness of yourself from another dimension sliding into consciousness like a handshake? Too bad you weren't a member. I would have seen that, and we would have asked that right then and there. That's a good question. What do you think, Cece?
It's like one of those things. It's like he's not wrong, but not quite right. And I don't know if our current understanding will get it, but right, But how I perceive it is, yeah, kind of like a fragment of yourself. I don't know if I would call it a different dimension, but certainly like different timelines sliding into alignment.
Yeah, kind of like that right path feeling, or oh, we've been here again, so something went wrong before, so they're trying this again at this point. I don't know.
Hmm.
Deja vu. Have you ever had deja vu of having deja vu? I had that not too long ago, and it was weird.
What happened?
It was just deja vu, but I was having deja vu of me recognizing having deja vu
Oh wow.
of an event that had, so it was like the third time. So whatever. So I must have died 3 times the same way. So they had to figure it out.
Well, did you stop, drop, and roll or something like that? Would have threw me. What were you doing at the time? I'm gonna investigate you.
I was coming out of the car and I had some things in my hand, and then I closed the car door, the back, and then I was walking forward towards the house, and when I looked up I had that feeling, and then I just stopped, and I was just like that whole like that frame was just like, I've done this before, I've carried this thing, I've gone to the same place, this is weird, but I've also done this before because I know what's going to happen next, and it's like, shit, that's like super weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Pricilla opens the door and probably was like, "You all right?" "Yeah, fine."
Oh my god.
Yeah, fine. Nothing, don't worry about it. We're good.
Nothing weird here.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Carry on. So yeah, Lisa, you got some validation today that there's 2 experiencers out there that can confirm the Earth may be round, but it's also might be in dreams though. Might be a dream. Might be a dream. Vinman says, debating if the Earth is flat when the bigger question is time just an illusion? Yeah, see, time is linear, I guess. I don't know. What's the answer to time?
No, it's non-linear.
Non-linear? That's it.
Yeah.
I wasn't confident in my answer. Non-linear.
It's true. You did came off with.
So she was also taking like the flat Earth as literally, and a lot of people think that too. That when we say the Earth is flat or could be flat, that literal. I think when we were talking to Mark Sargent,
Yeah, Mark Sargent.
He explained that well. How it's like it's just flat plane and all these other things. There were hills and valleys, and other stuff.
Yeah, that was the perspective shift for me where I started to go, okay, maybe it's not too far-fetched, but it's just the language that's being used. It's like we're all explaining the same thing, just using different terms. And like, yeah, so dimensions, like it could be, you could look at it as string theory. This could all be, very similar, like thought concepts that we're like following, but using different terminology to explain it or to, rationalize it in a way in our own mind.
No, I agree. I'm just gonna. So Lisa says, "No, Ryan, hear me. It's not a dream." And I'm not. I know. I know. You have a lot of cases that I group in my mind, But okay, it's not a dream. I won't joke. I'm joking.
Well, I like what Pricilla said, like her upbringing, even like the excuse me, the dream state isn't how we've come to perceive it as like just imagination. It's just it's actually an alternate realm. So we're traveling there.
And you know what? And the more that I'm learning about it and studying it and understanding it, like I believe that too. But I would like to have more control of it. If that's the place and I'm in the dream, like I'm the type of guy in this world that'll be all snoopy and looking around and figuring out the the secrets to everything. There's tactics and things they could do, but can you imagine me as a ghost? Like I'd be like all like fucking, I would use my energy to manifest the documents onto someone's desk. I'd steal them. Like I'd be a little shit.
So you'd just be hanging out in the Akashic records all day.
So yeah, I want to. If dreams are the way to connect to it, like I don't have a lot of control of my dreams.
That takes practice for sure.
I tried the sounds and tones for lucid dreaming and things like that. I've had a couple like fall out of bed moments, which could be out of body experiences, but like I've never, or at least that I can remember, I've never been able to be in control. I'd like to be in control of my dreams because then I would really get the answers. I could go somewhere, dial down, and be like, okay, remote viewing. That's something I want to get into. I mentioned that.
Yeah, I've stopped thinking like that to a degree because like how am I like I've started to think like how am I to be sure that I even know what I actually want or what I want is good for me? To a degree, I can't verify even that. So, like, if I go into my dream state with my like level of understanding, like I don't know what I'm even capable of. So my conscious state or present state in that moment is probably not going to be as effective as my subconscious state.
I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm just collecting the facts and connecting the people, putting the dots together, put them all in a room. And I'm hoping along the way, I'm going to find some experts that I can trust to be like, okay, tell me why these are the people, why these people are the way that they are. I have questions, right? I mean, that's my job. I'm just the shepherd here herding all these people. With remote viewing, someone who's good with remote viewing and psychic abilities is Captain Randy Kramer. And in real time, we got an email from the captain today. What did he ask for?
An interview?
Yeah. So did you respond?
No, not yet. I'm trying to. I'll get to it.
What the fuck?
I'm sorry you overloaded me today. I had different priorities.
Yeah, no, you did good today. It's okay. You're forgiven until Monday. First thing Monday.
Exactly.
So yeah, Randy Kramer has a new website. He wants to come back. So we're gonna try and get him back. He closed the season off last year, and he was a fan favorite. So it'd be great to have him back, especially when he's got something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are trying to get another secret guest for our closing show. I won't mention names because I don't want to jinx it. But as soon as I know, I'm going to talk about it every damn day if it's possible. And if we can't get them for the closer, let's try and get them for the opener of season 5.
I can't believe we'll be in season 5. That's crazy. Crazy. Yeah. It feels nuts. Congratulations.
Have you been with us the whole 5 years?
I've been, I think, in season 1 or 2. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what year.
Jamie started with Jamie.
Yeah,
so
it was
now
Jamie.
Running for mayor or something. So what are we doing?
Counselor.
Counselor, that's it.
Good for him. Yeah, no, he interviewed me at the very beginning when I was volunteering with Tessa.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Jesus. So, okay, so just so everybody knows, I guess, do we have a podcast next week? What's the schedule? Or
so next week, so just so everyone's aware who's on this watching on the replay, Uncharted Case Files is going to be season 1 is closed. So we'll be announcing changes to that program and moving forward to season 2 probably in the new year, 2023. And so that's not going to be playing on Mondays anymore for that time. And then next week on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, we have Sev Talk coming to speak with us. So like I'm ultra excited about that because she's a really well-known experiencer and she's I love a lot of what she says. Sorry?
MUFON lady.
Yes, and she does work with MUFON or does a lot of work with them anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good because I'm going to get some sound bites about talking about how we can help them and yada yada yada. You know?
I'm really happy to introduce Tessa to her at the very least. So I'm excited to have Sev talk on for October 6th, and then, yeah.
And then the following week we don't have a podcast because I am getting another degree in Freemasonry, so I will be away on that. And then I get another degree on the following Saturday, so I'll be busy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the podcast at the end of the month I saw the newsletter, which is really cool. If you guys haven't subscribed to the newsletter, you're missing out. Head over to our website here and just click newsletter at the top here. put in your email, and then you'll get to the newsletter when it comes out once a month and a bunch of other things. But Gary Voorhees is coming back.
Yeah.
I'm excited with him. He's overdue. He's donated so many times. Every time he comes in, he deserves. He's going to run the show. Let him run the show.
Yeah. I figured. Yeah, he was due for a round 2 for sure. And then, if we could get Randy Kramer on for round 2, that would be fun too. We'll see. I'm still working a few angles for guests. It's a kind of never-ending job.
Yeah, but the podcast is coming to an end soon at the end of November.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll have our final episode on December
1st.
December 1st would be our final episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat Season 4. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we get this guy. He said he would. He just got busy because important UFO things happened, and he had to deal with those things because they're changing the world. So I get it, but come on.
Yeah, and then we have Experiencer Day, which I'll be announcing more in the very, very near future, but that'll be Friday, December 9th. And for anyone who attended last year's Experiencer Day, that's an all-day event meant to honor experiencers who are brave enough to come and report to us. So we will have an Experiencer Roundtable, hopefully, and many, many other things for everyone to participate in.
Yeah, I'm excited because that's number 2, our second annual Experiencer Day.
Mm-hmm.
It was not just a cool thing; we're doing it again. So that's cool. And then after that, so there won't be a podcast that week, but there'll be a podcast the following week, and that'll be our year-end kind of review wrap up. Talk about goals, talk about all the things, and reflect on the last year, which this year's focus was rebuild. This year was rebuild. Last year was destroy. This year's rebuild.
Destroy, rebuild. Yeah,
I think it'd be good on the destroy year, but now we had some struggles rebuilding, but I think we're going to reach our goal. Because we've been doing a lot of restructuring, changing with memberships and things like that too, and
fine-tuning it and rejigging it and
and then so then next year would be what was it? Unity? Not Unity. Something to do with bringing everybody together.
I thought it was Unity. I thought it was Unity.
Unity. And then the following year, according to my experience or that thought on that day, would be contact. So I don't know if that means we'll get disclosure or I might get some answers. And I'll just be in the bug house. Who knows?
In the bug house? No, it'd be cool. Maybe we'll have like a large collective joint experience that nobody could deny.
Maybe. But until then, we got lots of people to take care of and investigations to do, and that's another reason why Uncharted Case Files is done, because I need to get caught up on my reports to have them out. I could use the time on Mondays to spend more time investigating cases for you guys. Now that I'm doing that again, a lot of you guys noticed the hat tonight, but did anybody notice the shirt? This is
Back to the Future.
So this is a Back to the Future hat. This is the Marty McFly hat that he just branded, by the way, and Back to the Future. So I just kind of wanted to point that out because I thought it was cool.
You can't really see your full shirt, to be honest. It's sit up.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else we got to talk about other than nothing?
I can't think of anything else. We've been really, really busy, everyone. There's actually a ton of things, but it's what's worth talking about at this stage.
Anybody in the comments have the question, speak now or forever hold your peace. Come on.
Yeah, everyone's been quite quiet tonight.
Yeah, well, they're listening.
Moon rising.
We are talking about doing some ticketed events, some programs and stuff. The idea randomly out of discussion today came up where I might just do some might teach you guys how to investigate. I think we might do some ticketed events where I can teach you guys how to do what I do, or teach you a skill or a part of it or something like that. So that's kind of in the works. Bugging Alex Mistretta, trying to get him to come back and play with us. He'll be part of E-Day. Am I spoiling things?
Nope. No, you can spoil it.
It's just Alex. No, he's
No, he's a headliner.
no, is he? Oh yeah. Alex, really?
I don't know. I'm just saying he's one of the,
No, it could be.
He's a return guest to E-Day, and I think that has some.
You're gonna do your own presentation too.
Yes, I don't know quite what yet, but I'm working on it.
I might be there. I don't know yet. Captain Canuck, right? I got to be the producer. Bring him back. And then we asked Sylvain as well from AEDC, so he'll be back. Well, not back. It'll be his first time with E-Day, but he's going to participate. We got a couple feelers out, including that mystery super special guest for the end of the year. If it gets back to the same email, it'd be a cool addition for E-Day.
Yeah, we're trying to bring some really fun, engaging discussions and like really broaden the experience or participation aspect of it.
Yeah, like all the people that we're trying to get like on board, like that want to present, like Cherry would be good,
Yeah.
Maybe I know Serena has taken a break, but maybe Serena might pop back for a little.
There's feelers in both those directions. You need to read Mondays.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. You need to email Randy Kramer. Like you do what you want to do. There's priorities, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't make it a big enough priority. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll talk about it on Monday. I'll write you up.
All right. Well, there's lots of good things coming for E-Day. I have no doubt about it, and we've already got a really great lineup. And we've got months to plan. So beyond what we've already done. So I hope everyone will consider joining in on that day. And if you're not already, follow us on social media, whichever you prefer, because that is where we do provide most of our updates, and our newsletter is awesome. So I hope you do consider signing up. That's another great way to receive updates if you're not on social media. Oh, I lost Ryan. So that's what, if you haven't seen the newsletter, please check it out. And I think Ryan's saying that's the end of it. We've switched sides. I know that bothers you.
Yep. I did that thing where I slipped my finger. I haven't done that in a while. It's been a while since I did that screen thing. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It caught me off surprise. It's always when I finish my sentence too. Well,
I'm trying to queue up the video to be like on time, and then I fuck it up.
Yeah, and it's just funny. Like my camera was actually functioning at the beginning of this interview when we were backstage with Pricilla, and now it's just frozen. And I want to show my face.
That's what it feels like. Did you do that on purpose?
No, I didn't do it on purpose, but it is funny, and you do deserve it.
Yeah, that's what that feels like. That doesn't feel very good. Being left alone in the crowd.
This is you can't see it. I can see it on my end. The picture where it froze on my camera. That's funny. So I just have this giant smile on my face. So that's how messed up my computer is, and I thought it was Mercury retrograde, but it certainly is something else.
Okay. Well, hopefully that was right. I think there's a bunch of planets in retrograde, but let's just end this. We'll have ourselves a merry weekend. I'm fucking tired. Okay. Time for bed.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Yeah, have a good evening. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky and heed the world.
Peace.
Peace.